the topic itself is about adaptability. I mean, that's exactly the topic, when the Raghu's team, asked for what is the topic that you would like to talk. I actually said, I think I better talk about things that I do every day. Instead of, possibly learning anything new, I should just be speaking or sharing what I keep doing every day. This topic is leadership adaptability for current times. And why did I pick up this is because, we work with lots of the family managed businesses who are trying to adapt to the newer, times. There are generations which are changing from first gen to second or second to third, etc. kind of thing. Or there are companies which are from those, the initial testing periods to, growth stage. They're trying to sort of adapt themselves. In all of these, we come across so many leaders who are sort of going through that journey. And as Raghu mentioned, I also do a bit of coaching. So I would have possibly worked very closely with 300 plus kind of leaders on a one-on-one basis. Most of the time, the kind of challenges that they bring into our discussions is about how do I really stay relevant with the change, right? When there's a change happening, suddenly our shelf life may get over. Unless I start adapting myself, I just become irrelevant. And that's, in fact, for a human being, becoming irrelevant is the most scary kind of a thing, right? I mean, just to think about it. So it's good that I think, Raghu occasionally remembers me and calls me, otherwise I might become irrelevant. So where is Raghu? I can't see him. Oh, there you are, okay. So that is the topic I thought, let me just, put a few things together. So when, I think about 2 weeks ago, when Karthik asked me this topic, I sort of comfortably gave this title. Then this morning, the butterfly started. Oh my God, today is the event and this evening is something I'm supposed to be speaking about. I know the topic, but how do I structure the whole thing? So then, there's a blink that happens, right? For a lot of us, it happens. When you're going through that, suddenly something happens, oh my God, this is fantastic. And I got 5 Ds. I got 5 Ds, okay? D for Delhi. So I'll be sharing those 5 Ds. And of course, at the end of these 20 minutes or whatever, I will also be quizzing you, okay? So what are those 5 Ds? So please remember, right? Yeah, so I might just ask, what is the 3rd D, what is the 4th D and all that. So you might just be ready about it. Now the point here is, what if I'm not one of those founders? I'm this audience, I'm not the founders, I'm not running a family managed business. So then this thought started, running in my mind since afternoon. It says, what would happen if I talk to audience? Then I said, just put one word ahead of this title. It says self-leadership adaptability during, current times. Self-leadership. Who doesn't want to lead oneself? Who doesn't want to lead oneself? I think all of us are actually self-leaders first, then we become leaders of business, leaders of teams and all that. So first we lead ourselves. So then I validated whether my 5 Ds are applicable even for a self-leadership. I think my model seems to be quite strong. So it worked. At least I satisfied myself, okay? So I'll share with you these 5 Ds, and if you are running a business, you might think like a business owner. If you are running yourself, then I think you're the CEO for yourself. You're on individual corporation. Okay, so either way, I think my 5 Ds will be applicable to you. Are you ready? Are you ready to listen to me, or are you ready to take the quiz as well? That's great. That's great. I'm more interested about the quiz, by the way. Okay, so the very first one that I've been noticing, in fact, I'm also part of the whole journey. I am also going through the self-leadership adaptability myself also. The first D I figured out is, there seems to be deluge of information. There seems to be deluge of information. It's like the flood, it's just coming. You don't want, but it's coming. I'm just trying to figure out yourself. Seems to be a big thing. And when there's a scarcity, you look for it. But here is a problem that I don't want it, but it's coming. Right? It's just coming. And how do I differentiate? And the beautiful English word, How do I develop this ability to discern, differentiate what is useful, what is not useful, and something that should not confuse me. Right? The over information sometimes confuses us, and we are supposed to be taking decisions about ourselves, about our businesses, about our teams and all that. When there's a deluge of information, I must have a little bit of mental discerning ability to figure out what is important, what is not important, what is necessary, what is not necessary. Otherwise, it is almost like, going through an IAM program and trying to decipher a 60-page Harvard business case study. And most of the professors say that 20 page is a text, 40 pages are annexures in your Harvard business case study, and most of the 40 are not really relevant for you. And I used to ask some of the professors, sir, if it is not useful, why is it given? It is given just to test whether you can figure it out. Okay, so there's so much given to you, and you are now tested. Will you be smart enough to pick what you want and leave the remaining? That seems to be increasing with the times. The times are increasing, the flood of information. So the first D is the deluge of information is forcing me as a leader to actually have a mental discipline to figure it out. That's the first D. The second D, most of the leaders, at least I can see a lot of young leaders here. So maybe you are dealing with such people that I'm going to describe. Okay, so the youngsters are dealing with those people, and those people are suffering from this. Okay, that is the second D. The second D is this digital storming. This digital storming. And I don't know if some of those people, and in fact, I was very curious when I saw this, video of, forgetting, who is the retired 94 years? Warren Buffett. When Warren Buffett retired at 94 years, I was just figuring out how he would have changed his leadership over so many decades. I believe 60 plus decades, 6 decades plus he worked, right? So how many transformations he must have made within his own leadership style. Suppose if he said, I used to dictate and my secretary used to take it and type it and give it to me kind of a, zamana. I don't know how he would have changed now. Now, there is no such role at all. And if I am as a leader, I'm still dependent on a team member to give me a draft. There is no such person available now. There is no such person available. And people are saying, don't you know how to use ChatGPT? Now, that's a very shameful question if it comes from my young colleague, right? And neither I can say I don't know, nor I can say I know. So it's such a delicate thing. Okay, I'll figure it out, you go. Kind of a thing. It's very embarrassing for people to say, this digital storm, I'm not able to cope with this. There are so many things that are coming up that if you say, give me the report, sir, you can figure it out yourself. Online, you can figure it out. You have login. If these are the responses coming in, I better be ready now with all this. And those people who haven't transformed themselves, I think are the people who are struggling. That is those people. Now, youngsters are dealing with such people who are overwhelmed with the digital storms. Oh my God, my boss, this fellow doesn't even know how to actually do anything. We are dealing with this problem here. So digital storm seems to be another one, forcing leaders to change their ways of working. So that's the second D that I figured out. Now the third D is, in fact, there are companies which actually ask me to come and do a leadership workshop on this topic. It says, there is the diverse generations all working under one roof. In fact, I think there possibly how many generations might be working under one roof?
4.
Yeah, 4? Someone is not retiring at all. 4th generation also is working, still. And someone is refusing to leave the office. Okay, if you have 4 generations and working under one roof, and the whole idea is, this statement that you popularly hear, during my early days, kind of a statement, I think, who wants to listen to now? Who wants to listen to that? I wasn't like this when I started my career. It's an irrelevant statement now. But I think the third generation, fourth generation would still like to nostalgically talk about it. And the youngsters saying, I don't care. If you did like that, it's okay, that's your problem. Now, I'm not looking at it that way. Now, the whole outlook towards careers, outlook towards jobs, outlook towards pleasing your bosses is not there. Is not there now. I don't have to please my boss. If I deliver value, what else should I do? I think now, this generation is now finding it very difficult. I mean, there are people who actually said, so-and-so doesn't call me sir. And we still have some small section of the audience, the organizations who still go through this problem. That someone is not calling me sir and I'm offended here. Yeah, you must have changed at least a decade ago, but you haven't. So that's your problem. Now you are actually dealing with this problem. Everyday hurt. Everyday morning hurt for the senior leaders is this. That diverse generations are coming, their outlook, they don't even care for jobs. In fact, some of them actually come and say, don't make me manager. I don't like to be a manager. I said, I was craving for that managerial position during my younger days, but here is one generation who says, please, if possible, don't make me manager. Now, this is a difficult thing for me to handle as a manager, as a leader. So looks like I think this is another one that the leaders are struggling. How do I deal with these diverse generations and expectations and outlooks? So that's the third D, right? So 3 Ds are over, right? Should I do a quiz? Midterm quiz? No, right? not required, right? So the very first one was, in fact, I forgot. What's the first one? Yeah, deluge of information. The second one is digital storming. The third one is diverse generation. And the fourth one is, thanks to COVID, distanced teams. Dispersed teams. Distanced teams. Now, recently I was, doing a coaching for kind of an early manager. Manager itself is a problem. That dealing with some, 17 guys. And on top of it, this person has these 17 members dispersed at 3 locations. And this person is sitting in Bangalore, attending a coaching session with me, saying, as it is, this is the first time I'm leading a team, and my boss has already given me 17 members, and all these 17 are not in front of me. They're actually working at 3 different, locations, and some of them I haven't even met in person, and I'm actually dealing with this. Now, another, welcome to Leadership Club. All that I just said is welcome to the Leadership Club. Now, this is what is actually happening, and on top of it, the CEO says we should build culture. We should build culture in our. I haven't even seen this guy. How do you expect to build cultures here? Now, they're all at different places, most probably working in their shorts, sitting at home, right? And what is the culture you're talking about here? I'm confused. The communication is a problem, culture building is a problem, driving performance is a problem, right? And all of this is overwhelming the leaders. So the fourth D is this dispersed teams, seems to be the fourth D there. And to top it all, the fifth D. To top it all, the fifth D. This is something which is hurting the most of the leaders. And that is the death of authority. The death of authority. If I say that, I'm your boss, what could be the response? What could be the response? Exactly. Oh my God, that's exactly the one, right? They say, I'm your boss. So what? So what? I think that's hurting the leaders the maximum. In fact, most of the people, they say that, my organization somehow doesn't give me sufficient authority to manage my team, Everyone is so liberal, so lenient. The system itself is like this. Our system should give leaders a little more authority. I just keep looking at it. You're still mid-40s and you're still talking like this? You're just mid-40s and you're still talking like this. By now you should have changed. Because authority was long dead. Even at homes it is dead. Even at homes it is dead. Who cares for their dads and moms? Now it is the other way around. In fact, a lot of times managers tell me that they are actually scared of the team members. Once it happened in Chennai. I was I was interacting with bunch of people, and it was kind of some leadership workshop. During the break, someone comes up to me. During the breaks, a lot of things happen, the coffee breaks and all that. So they start coming and opening up themselves a little more. You know what? The example that you're giving me, I could relate to that. I said, what was the example? He said, no, I actually raised my voice and thrown my authority, and trust me, that night I didn't have sleep. Because next morning I came a little early just to check the head count whether everyone turned up or not. And he took a deep breath and happily, thank God everyone turned up. He shouted and he was scared that someone would be so upset with this raising of my voice and someone would quit. And he was relieved when nothing happened. So I think that person realized, I think authority was long dead. I think you are now talking about convincing people, selling things, taking them into confidence, communicating. A lot more patience is now being called for from the leaders kind of thing. So this is the 5th day, which some of the people who still carry those strong assumptions that leadership means control, leadership means authority. I think that's gone from homes onwards to corporates. It's gone. Even at home, you don't have any sense of authority. Even if you're so-called head of the family, nothing happens. You're head of the family for responsibility, not for authority. You don't have authority, you have responsibility, period. Right? So I think these are all the 5 Ds that leaders are struggling, and youngsters who are dealing with such leaders. The youngsters who are possibly dealing with those leaders who are struggling with these 5 Ds. So I think that's kind of an environment that we are looking at. And now, how does this whole thing really help us? Okay, so we have problems. So how does it help? I think, if there are leaders, obviously it's time for them to very quickly adapt themselves. And if they can start doing it for themselves, excellent. Otherwise, I think they should really seek some help. Go to mentors like Sanjay Jastani. Possibly they'll give us little bit of perspective, the way the world has changed. And or you can come to me as well. So so I also help people. But the challenge here is how anyone who is emerging as a leader not to fall into these traps. I think that's a word of caution. More importantly is unwittingly. See, the whole problem that I mentioned are not about leaders. It is about human beings. Human beings like power. Human beings like authority. It is nothing to do with leadership. As human beings, we would like to have it. But I think the day I release myself, that I'm not really chasing power, I'm actually chasing results. And those results can come even without authority. I think it's a complete change of perspective. As long as we guard ourselves not to fall into these traps, I think we are really strengthening our foundations of leadership. So if you are young to middle, I think the caution is don't entertain any of these 4 Ds to rock you. And if you're already into that zone of leadership, I think it's a very, very immediate need that we change ourselves and ensure that we don't suffer from any of these 4 Ds. So I think that's briefly what I wanted to share with you. And if there are any questions, of course, I know Raghu's statement, we'll take it offline. Okay? Yeah? So thank you so much, and that's it from me.